What would you do if you were told never to step foot in a forbidden land? Today, we dive into the heart of an ancient African Shona tale where three young friends, against all warnings, venture into a land believed to be cursed. But what they first find isn't danger, is the key to saving their village. Join me as I explore the story of bravery, friendship, and a forgotten land filled with mystery, where the proverb Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi kusviba magaro takes on a whole new meaning. In other words, this proverb means he who sets traps in burnt fields isn't afraid to get dirty. So get ready for an adventure full of wisdom and wonder. Let's meet Tawanda. He's a young boy from the Shona village of Nyamatsatse. His family, known for their bravery, faces a terrible drought that threatens the village's survival. Despite the dangers of venturing into the forbidden, barren land of Rucha, Tawanda decides to set a trap in this burnt land to catch food for his starving village. This daring journey teaches Tawanda and his friends lessons about bravery, the value of helping others, and the importance of staying true to oneself no matter how hard the challenges are. Along the way, Tawanda and his friends encounter animals, spirits, and nature in ways that bring the proverb to life. The proverb Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi kusviba magaro. Now I will leave you to listen to a short story that will leave you with a clear meaning of this Shona proverb we are looking at today. The drought in Nyamatsatse. In the village of Nyamatsatse, life had always been filled with the sounds of laughter, the hum of singing voices, and the clap of dancing feet. But now the village was quiet and everyone looked worried. A long drought had stolen the rains, and without rain, the crops wouldn't grow. The once busy farms looked sad and brown, and the animals in the village had begun to look thin. Even the mighty Mambo Chikuru, the village elder, seemed lost for words. Tawanda watched his grandmother, Gogonyasha, as she prepared a thin porridge for dinner. He could see her hands were shaky and her face held lines that he had never noticed before. Gogonyasha was the oldest and wisest person in the village. Many times she had told Tawanda and his friends stories of brave ancestors, great hunters, and smart tricksters. But tonight, Gogonyasha was quiet. After a long silence, she finally spoke. Tawanda, do you know what it means to be brave? She asked him, her eyes looking deep into his. Tawanda thought for a moment. He wanted to be brave, like the heroes in Gogo's stories, but he didn't quite know how. He shook his head. A brave person, Gogonyasha began, is like someone who sets a trap on bent ground, who is not afraid to get dirty. She paused. The Shona say, Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi kusviba magaro. It means that when you choose to do something that others fear, you should not worry about what comes with it. Bravery, Tawanda, is doing what is hard without thinking of the cost to yourself. Tawanda listened carefully. Even though he wasn't sure what Gogo meant, he wanted to understand and he wanted to help. He knew that the village needed food and people were losing hope. Gogo, he asked, if I were brave, like in the proverb, "What would I do?" Gogo Nyasha smiled, and the eyes sparkled with a familiar glint. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "you would find food for the village, even if it meant going to places others fear." Her words made Tawanda's heart beat faster. He knew she was talking about Rucha, the blackened land at the edge of the village. No one went there since the great fire had left it barren and empty. But Tawanda's mind was already racing with ideas. As he lay down that night, Tawanda knew that he wanted to be brave. He would think of a way to help his village, even if it meant getting his hands and clothes dirty in the land of Rucha. And as he closed his eyes, the words of the proverb echoed in his mind: "Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi, kusviba magaro." He would set his trap on the bent ground, and he wouldn't be afraid. Tawanda's decision. The next morning, Tawanda woke up early, even before the roosters began to crow. He quietly tiptoed past his grandmother, who was still asleep, and slipped outside. The morning air was cool, but Tawanda could feel the dryness in the wind. The land was thirsty, and it seemed like even the trees were too tired to stand tall. As Tawanda walked towards the edge of the village, he noticed his friends, Rudo and Tendai, playing with sticks near the dust path. Rudo and Tendai were his best friends, and he knew he couldn't go on this journey without them. "Hey, Tawanda," Tendai called out, waving. "Where are you going so early?" Tawanda took a deep breath, feeling both nervous and excited. "I'm going to Rucha," he said, trying to sound brave as he could. "I want to set traps and see if I can find food for the village. Gogo says a real hero is not afraid to get a little dirty." Rudo's eyes grew wide. "Rucha?" she whispered, looking over her shoulder. "But no one goes there. They say strange things happen in that land. My mother says it's cursed." "Maybe it's just a story to scare us," Tawanda replied, trying to sound confident. "But what if there's still food to be found? We can't sit here and do nothing while everyone goes hungry." He paused, hoping his friends would understand. "We could be the heroes of Nyamatsatsa." Tendai scratched his hand, looking unsure. But then he straightened up. "If you are going, then I'm going too," he said with a grin. "Someone has to make sure you don't get in trouble." Rudo hesitated, biting a lip, but then she nodded. "I'm going too. If there's a chance to help the village, we have to take it. But we need a plan." The three friends huddled together, whispering about what they would need for the journey. Tawanda suggested they gather sticks to build traps, and Rudo thought to bring small gourds for water, even if it was just a little. Tendai, who loved climbing trees, offered to bring a slingshot for protection. As they prepared, a gentle breeze brushed against them, carrying the faint scent of burnt wood from Rucha. It felt as if the land itself was listening, waiting for them to take the first brave step. Finally, with their supplies packed and courage gathered, Tawanda, Rudo, and Tendai stood together at the edge of the village. Ahead lay the blackened ground of Rucha, stretching out under the early morning sky like a dark, sleeping giant. Tawanda clenched his fists, remembering Gogo's words, "Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi, magaro." He whispered to himself, then, with one last look at his friends, he took the first step forward. Journey into Ruta begins. As the trio walked deeper into Ruta, the land felt strangely silent. The trees, bent from the great fire, stood like shadow guardians, and the ground crunched under their feet. Tawanda, Rudo, and Tendai stayed close together, their eyes darting around, searching for any sign of danger or food. Do you think there are animals here? Tendai asked, gripping his slingshot tightly. Tawanda shrugged. I don't know. Maybe the fire scared them away, but we have to try. Gogo always says that sometimes the things we fear hide the things we need. They continued walking until they reached a small, dried out riverbed. Tawanda looked around thoughtfully. This might be a good place to set our traps, he said, pointing to a spot where animal footprints dotted the ground. Animals need water too. If any come here, we might be able to catch something. Together, they began to set up their traps using sticks, twine, and leaves to create a clever setup that Tawanda's father had taught him before he passed away. Tawanda missed his father, but he felt his spirit with him, guiding him as he worked. While they set the traps, Rudo's stomach growled loudly, and she clutched her belly with a sheepish smile. I hope we catch something soon, she said. I'm already starving. Tendai laughed, trying to lighten the mood. Maybe we can catch a giant rabbit. Imagine how full we will be then. The thought made them all giggle, and for a moment the fear of Ruta seemed to fade. They continued setting traps, each one working carefully to ensure they would have the best chance of a success. Just as they finished, Rudolph froze and pointed to the distance. Did you see that? She whispered, her eyes wide. Tawanda and Tendai turned to look. In the shadows, they thought they saw a movement, a flash of something small, quick disappearing behind a tree. What was that? Tendai asked, his voice barely a whisper. Tawanda held his breath, feeling his heart race. But then he remembered the proverb and felt a spark of courage. Whatever it is, we can handle it, he said, standing tall. We are here to help our village, and we are not leaving until we do. With that, the three friends took a deep breath, ready for whatever lay ahead in the mysterious land of Rucha, the mysterious shadow. The three friends stood still, eyes fixed on the spot where the shadow had disappeared. The bent trees around them seemed to grow taller and darker as the wind whispered through their branches. Tawanda tried to remember Gogo's tales about spirits and creatures in the forest, but he shook his head, pushing the fear aside. We came here to be brave, he reminded his friends, and we can't turn back now. Rudo took a deep breath. You are right, Tawanda, but let's just be careful, okay? They moved forward slowly, their eyes and ears alert. The sun was beginning to rise higher, casting long shadows on the bent ground. Suddenly, Tendai stopped and pointed at something glinting in the dirt. What's that? He whispered, bending down to get a closer look. It was a small piece of metal, shaped like a star. Tawanda picked it up and brushed the dirt off. It looked like part of an old necklace, rusted and dull, but as he held it, he felt a strange warmth in his hand, almost like metal was coming alive. Maybe this belongs to one of the people who used to live here, Tawanda said. He turned to his friends, his eyes full of wonder. What if this place isn't cursed? What if it just needs someone to care for it again? They each took turns holding the metal star, feeling the warmth and thinking about the lives that had once lived in this land. Suddenly, they heard a soft rustling sound coming from the bushes nearby. Tawanda quickly tucked the star into his pocket and signaled for his friends to stay low. They peered through the leaves, their house pounding, and saw a small animal, a duiker, nibbling on some dry grass. The animal was thin and looked weak, likely affected by the drought as well. The sight filled Tawanda with a strange mix of sadness and determination. We have to try and help, not just for us, but for all the creatures who live here too. He whispered to his friends, if we are going to survive, we are all going to survive together. The Daika noticed them and froze, its wide eyes looking at them with curiosity and caution. Rudo gently held out her hand, and for a moment the animal seemed to relax. Just then, one of their traps sprang to life with a loud snap nearby, causing the Daika to bolt back into the shadows. The friends jumped, startled by the sudden noise, and then exchanged relieved glances. They hurried over to the trap, hoping it had caught something. A surprising find. When they reached the trap, they saw it had caught a large guinea fowl. The bird flapped its wings, trying to escape, but Tawanda carefully held it down, speaking softly to calm it. He knew that this guinea fowl would provide much needed food for his family and others in the village. He felt grateful, but also a little sad to take from a place that had already lost so much. Thank you, he whispered to the bird, for helping us survive. Rudo and Tendai looked at the guinea fowl with wide eyes. This is amazing, Rudo said, a voice filled with excitement. We've caught enough to bring back to the village. Tendai grinned, but his smile quickly faded. We should be careful when we go back. If the villagers find out we've been here, they might be upset. People are so afraid of Ruta. Tawanda nodded thoughtfully. Let's only tell Gogonyasha, she will understand. The three friends wrapped the guinea fowl in some leaves and decided to head back before it got too hot. But as they made their way through Rucha, Tawanda's mind kept wandering to the little Daika and the rusted star in his pocket. This land was cursed. He was sure of it now. It was simply forgotten, just like the people and creatures who once lived here. As they walked, he whispered the proverb to himself again. Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi kusviba magaro. He was beginning to understand its true meaning. To help his village, he would face anything, even the fears and stories that had kept others away. Returning to Nyamatsatse. When they finally reached the village, they were dusty and tired, but proud of their journey. They carried the ginfowl carefully, hiding it in their bundle as they made their way to Gogo Nyasha's hut. Along the way, some villagers noticed them and gave them curious looks, but no one asked questions. Inside the hut, Gogonyasha was sitting on a mat, her wise eyes lighting up when she saw the children enter. Tawanda placed the bundle in front of her and she smiled, guessing right away what was inside. Ah, so you went to Ruta after all, she said quietly, her eyes twinkling. Tawanda, Rudo, and Tendai looked at each other in surprise. How did you know? Rudo asked, wide-eyed. Gogonyasha chuckled. I may be old, but my eyes and ears still work well. I saw the way you left this morning with the determination in your step. Only those who believe in the proverb could venture into Rutsa without fear. Tawanda felt warmth spread through him at her words. She was right. He hadn't been afraid because he knew he was doing something good for the village. He showed her the small metal star, telling her about the daika, the shadows, and the way the land seemed to hold secrets of the past. Gogonyasha held the star in her hand and nodded slowly. You see, my children, Ruta is not a cursed place. It is a place of stories and memories. And you have added to those memories by your bravery today. Tawanda beamed with pride, feeling that he was finally understanding the meaning of the proverb. They had walked through bent land and faced their fears, and now they had returned with hope for the village. Now, Gogonyasha said with a smile, let's prepare this food and share it with those in need. But remember, my brave ones, sometimes the hardest journeys teach us the most important lessons. The land of Rucha will always welcome those who are brave enough to enter. As they prepared the meal, Tawanda felt a new sense of purpose in his heart. This was only the beginning of his journey into understanding the power of courage, kindness, and resilience. Village feast. The ginfao that Tawanda, Rudo, and Tendai had brought back became the center of a small feast in Yamatsatse that evening. Though food was scarce, everyone in the village came together to share the meal, grateful for the taste of something new. Tawanda and his friends watched proudly as their families and neighbors enjoyed every bite. Afterwards, Gogonyasha gathered the children around her, and Tawanda felt a rush of excitement as she began to tell the story of their brave journey into Rucha. She spoke of how the children faced their fears and found hope where others only saw a barren, lifeless place. The villagers listened with wide eyes, nodding with respect for their courage. When Gogo finished, Mambo Chukuru, the village elder, spoke. You three have shown great bravery and you have reminded us of something important. Sometimes we need to look beyond our fears to find what we need. He paused, his gaze thoughtful. Maybe Ruta is not cursed after all. Maybe it is a place waiting for us to rediscover it. The villagers murmured, exchanging curious glances. Tawanda's heart filled with pride and determination. He knew there was still more to learn about Ruta, and he was ready to explore it further. Returning to Ruta, the next morning, Tawanda, Rudo, and Tendai decided to return to Ruta, this time with permission from Mambo Chukuru and the encouragement of the villagers. They packed small supplies and promised to return with whatever they could find. As they stepped back into Rucha, it didn't feel as eerie as it had before. The bent trees and dusty ground now seemed almost familiar. Tawanda led the way, his heart full of hope and curiosity. Let's go for further this time, he suggested, pointing to a distant hill. Maybe there is more we haven't seen. They walked for a while, enjoying the quiet sounds of nature. Birds fluttered in the distance, and they even spotted the daika from before. It felt like Ruta was welcoming them back, and the land seemed less lonely. The hidden stream. As they climbed the hill, they spotted a small stream flowing through a rocky crevice, hidden by trees and shrubs. The water was clear, and the sight of it made the children gasp with joy. Water, Rudo cried, rushing forward. She knelt beside the stream, cupping her hands and drinking the cool, refreshing water. Tawanda and Tendai joined her, laughing as they drank. They hadn't expected to find water in Rucha, and this discovery felt like a precious gift. This stream can help our village, Tawanda said, thinking of the people and animals in Nyamatsatse who needed water. He imagined a way to bring this life-giving source closer to the village. He felt a strong sense of purpose, as if the stream was guiding them on a new path. The discovery of wild vegetables. Following the stream, they soon discovered patches of wild vegetables and edible plants growing along the banks. Tawanda recognized some from the teachings of his late father and knew they could be used for food. Carefully, they gathered as much as they could carry, each child filling their bags with greens, roots, and seeds. Rudo beamed as she filled her arms. This will feed many in the village, she said. With water and food to bring back, the three friends felt that Rucha had transformed from a place of fear to one of hope. Encounter with the spirit of Rucha. Just as they were about to leave, a figure appeared in the shadows near the stream. It was an old woman dressed in robes made of leaves and bark. Her face was gentle and her eyes sparkled like the stars. "Welcome, brave ones," she spoke, her voice as soft as the wind. "I am the spirit of Rucha." The children stepped back, feeling a mix of awe and curiosity. Tawanda found his voice and asked him, "Are you here to protect this land?" The spirit smiled, "Yes, I've been waiting for someone to come and see the true beauty hidden in this place. Many feared Rucha, but you looked beyond the fear and brought life back to it." The spirit told them that Rucha had once been a flourishing land, but when fear and stories of cases spread, people abandoned it. Now the land waited for the bravery and care of the villagers to restore it. "Go back to your village," the spirit said. "Tell them that Rucha can thrive again. But remember, to nurture this land, you must return often and treat it with respect." The journey back home. With hearts full of gratitude, Tawanda, Rudo, and Tendai promised the spirit they would return. They began their journey back to Nyamatsatse, carrying bundles of water, vegetables, and a new understanding of Ruchasi spirit. Along the way, they whispered the proverb Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi kusviba magaro. They realized now that being brave wasn't just about facing danger, it was about caring deeply for others, for the land, and for the future. Sharing Rucha's secret. When they returned, the villagers gathered around, marveling at the food and water they had brought. They listened intently as Tawanda and his friends shared the story of the spirit of Rucha and how the land only needed love and courage to thrive again. Mambo Chukuru nodded, his voice filled with respect. "We have learned a great lesson today. From now on, we will tend to Rucha together." A new beginning for Rucha. The villagers formed a group to help care for Rucha. They planted seeds, tended to the wild plants, and carried water from the stream. Bit by bit, green sprouts began to push through the soil, and Rucha came alive again. The animals returned, and the birds filled the air with their songs. Tawanda, Rudot, and I were celebrated as heroes, and the villagers honored the spirit of Rucha with dances and songs. Gogo Nyasha's blessing. Gogo Nyasha, seeing the beauty the children had brought back to Nyamatsatse, blessed them with heartfelt words. You have brought pride to your ancestors and have shown us the power of courage and kindness. May Rucha always be a reminder that even bent ground can bloom again if we have the heart to care. The return of the rains. The rains finally returned to Nyamatsatse, filling the land with life. The crops flourished, the rivers flowed, and the people celebrated, grateful for the blessings that came with the rain. The villagers knew that their efforts in Rucha had brought good fortune, and they continued to care for the land, knowing it would sustain them for years to come. The festival of Rucha. To honor Rucha, the villagers created a festival where they would gather, dance, and tell stories of bravery and kindness. Each year, they shared the tale of Tawanda, Rudo, and Tendai, passing down the lesson of the proverb for future generations. Tawanda's growing dream. As Tawanda grew older, he often returned to Rucha, tending to the plants and helping his village find new ways to live in harmony with the land. He dreamed of becoming a great leader who would help Nyamatsatse thrive for many years, passing the proverb on. Tawanda taught his own younger siblings and other children the meaning of Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi, kusviba, magaro. They listened in awe as he shared the wisdom of facing fears and finding strength in kindness. Tawanda knew the proverb would live on in their hearts. Rucha, a land of hope. Years passed and the once feared land of Rucha had become a place of joy, life, and hope. Tawanda's bravery had brought his village closer together and taught them the power of resilience. The land blossomed with trees, flowers, and animals, and the people of Nyamatsatse felt a deep connection to Rucha. As Tawanda looked over the flourishing land, he felt Gogonyasha's words echo in his heart. With a smile, he whispered, Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi, kusviba, magaro. The journey of courage, once a story of struggle, had become a legacy of hope for generations to come. Conclusion. A legacy of courage and kindness. Years after Tawanda's first brave journey to Rucha, the land of Nyamatsatse continued to thrive. The village had grown into a strong community, bonded by their shared belief in courage, resilience, and the love of their land. Rucha, once feared and shunned, was now the heart of the village, a place filled with lush fields, tall trees, and clean water, where children played and animals roamed freely. Tawanda grew into a wiser leader, respected not only for his bravery but for the kindness he showed to everyone. He never forgot the proverb that had guided him as a young boy. Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi, kusviba, magaro. He taught it to his children, his grandchildren, and every young soul in the village, reminding them that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act even when the path is difficult. Under Tawanda's guidance, the people of Nyamatsatse came to understand that every challenge brought with it the opportunity to grow, the land to face struggles with hope, and to care deeply for each other and for the land that sustained them. And as the village prospered, the story of Tawanda, Rudo, and Tendai became a cherished legend, told every festival of Rucha to honor the land and its spirit. Tawanda's legacy continued to inspire generations, reminding them that the bravest hearts are those that chose kindness, even when it means venturing into places others fear to go. Through his journey, he taught his people that no land is truly barren and no challenge is insurmountable when faced with courage, love, and a willingness to get a little dirty for what truly matters. And so Ruta was never forgotten again. We've come to the end of this Shona tale that explains the meaning of the Shona proverb we are looking at today. Ateya Mariva Murutsva, haatyi kusviba magaro. If you want more stories like this, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a new story. Share this video with your friends and family to spread the lessons of bravery and resilience. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next Shona proverb we are going to look at.